Welcome to another Bald Traveler vlog. We're back talking about our semi-retirement, moving out of our house and into our trailer so we can travel full time. Where we left off at the last video was week 7, where we had just bought our RV. Now we're on to week 8 and 9. Not really a lot happened during this time.
Right.
It was a lot of selling stuff and starting to really focus on getting the house ready to go on the market. So this is kind of like mid-July for us right now. And so we were putting a lot of stuff up on Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, we were eBaying a bunch of stuff, trying to find places to put stuff, and then preparing all of our costuming and crafting stuff. Kind of organizing that so that we could bring all of our friends in and have them take a look through everything.
All right, and that was probably bigger than what you're picturing. Cosplay is a pretty big hobby, so we had enough craft supply to fill several rooms. So it was really important to us. Yeah, we could have Goodwilled that, we could have just thrown it away, but the cosplay community, we really want to support that community, so as much as we could, we would bring our friends in to pick through and see if there's anything they needed. And then luckily in the end we were able to find one of our friends is going to kind of take over as the cosplay repository and be able to keep a lot of this extra for when our people in our group need it, so it won't go to waste. And that was our big thing is, downsizing is great and it's wonderful, but it feels like you're wasting so much if you just throw it all away. So we spent a lot of time, again, probably more than you would think, trying to downsize responsibly. And it honestly, it was a lot of work.
Yeah, and then during week 10, we actually started our planning for how we were going to leave Arizona. Our first trip is to visit family in Tennessee, so we're going from Arizona to Tennessee. And then after that, we're going to Virginia to visit more family. And then when we're done with that, we're going to Florida. Right. And so we've got Virginia to Florida and then our time in Florida. We've already booked everything up through about halfway through Florida. And we, at the time of recording, but at the beginning of week 10, we had just started that first trip from Arizona to Tennessee and kind of trying to figure out how many days we wanted to go. And one night we sat down, we planned everything, we started to look at getting ready to book campgrounds and state parks, and try to find like Harvest Host, which is a place where you can go to like wineries or breweries or farms and stuff and spend a night. It's a membership program. Information will be in the link down below. If you're interested in signing up for that, you can use our link. We'll get a small commission towards our renewal for us, and then you'll get a small discount on your side. So it kind of works out really well on that.
So how we started this was we kind of worked backwards. We don't want to live a life where we're always pushed by dates, but there were a few things that are kind of critical for us. We really wanted to be in Florida before winter. I'm from Virginia. I have no desire to go through winter, which is mainly ice, in Virginia. So our whole goal was to get pretty much all the way through Virginia and down into Florida before winter. So that kind of helped set our first date and goal, and that's kind of what was driving our speed across the country.
So, the goal is to be in Tennessee in mid-October, spend Halloween in Virginia with our friends in Virginia, and then start heading south. I think we're spending Thanksgiving in Georgia, Savannah, Georgia. Will be Christmas and New Year's in various parts of Florida. And a little bit later, we'll talk a little bit more about the joy of trying to plan Florida this late in the season.
That's terrible.
But, kind of what we were planning here was Arizona to Tennessee. And one thing we found out was we were gonna overnight in Albuquerque on the second night and actually spend 3 days there. But it's right during the balloon festival, so finding any type of campground there is not possible. So our plan is to do either 3 hours or 300 miles as our max in a day. And our first 2 days on the trip to get us through Albuquerque are both 5-hour days.
So we're breaking our rule pretty much trip one, but that really, I do hope, is going to be an abnormality. You know, when you got to looking at the, you know, what was available, there was just nothing available in Albuquerque, or if it was unreasonably priced. So that's one reason we're choosing to do that. Definitely we want to hit that balloon festival sometime, but we're going to have to plan for that rather than just try to wing it within a month of it, you know, coming. It's just not going to work.
And I'll do a trip planning video here in the near future where we kind of go over how we plan. We've still got to plan out post Florida, so we'll go over some of that. And for those interested, if you're interested, you can comment down below. We'll actually put our trip out there after we're done with it. So, you know, once we're done going through Tennessee, when we're in Virginia, I'll go ahead and post a link to the actual blog post that lists kind of where we went and how we went from Arizona to Tennessee. And we'll continue to go through that. You know, a week or two after we've completed a leg of the trip, we'll go ahead and post kind of what that leg was, just for people who are interested. You know, they can know what's going on.
Right. And I do think it's important that we'll share kind of how we're doing our planning, and I'm sure there's ways that we can improve it. So we're definitely going to want that input from everybody else on what we can do better or differently. But we'll give a quick intro into how we do it. We whiteboard and kind of use a couple of apps and things like that. But you know, we'll give a different presentation on that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a couple apps that we have that we've used. One, Harvest Host, that we mentioned. Another one that we use is RV Trip Wizard for kind of the planning and keeping track of everything. And then we've also got Boondocker's Welcome, which we haven't used yet, but we're kind of looking forward to. It just hasn't worked out for the planning in this trip. But, you know, for this trip from Arizona to Tennessee, we've got, you know, a mix of campgrounds, a mix of state parks. We've got Army Corps of Engineers sites. We've got a couple kind of pure boondocking sites where, you know, one day we're planning to stop at a Bass Pro. Another time we're going to be in a Walmart or a library parking lot. That's actually our first night out.
And mainly that's, again, being driven. We're trying to get to a certain point by a certain date. Normally we wouldn't be doing these, you know, 2-day hops, 3-day hops. At least that's what we hope, is we're going to settle into more like a 1 to 2 week stay.
And after getting to Virginia, we're in Virginia for 14 days, and then we've got we got 13 days, and then a quick hop just because the campground or the city park we were at wouldn't allow us to do a full 14 days.
I love the apps that are like, you can tell they need a tweak.
And then we've got, you know, everything after that is 7 or 14 days through most of Florida at this point. So, and then that's kind of the goal going forward is to be at like 7 to 14 days. So we spend a week or two at each location and get a chance to relax and not have to worry about hopscotching right now.
Right, because right now you have to remember, I am still working and I plan to keep working. I'm 20 hours a week. So we're really planning to do most of our big traveling on Saturday and Sunday, and then I'm also on Wednesdays we're going to try to do a short travel again until we can get over to Florida, and then we'll probably stick to our travel days on the weekend when I'm not working.
And and I will, once we get across the country, once we get to Virginia, I'm planning to go back to doing consulting. I've got a couple of things that I'll be working on while we're getting across the country, kind of some personal projects. For the Bald Traveler web community in general, and then from there, then I'll start moving back into consulting work.
All right.
And then the other thing that we did during week 10 was we had kind of the walkthrough of our trailer. So we had that on a Wednesday, and we did our walkthrough, and everything was so pretty. Everything that we wanted changed pretty much had been changed. They still had a little bit of work. Our plan was to pick it up that Saturday and take it to the storage facility that we had so that we could start packing it, because we were going to go camping the following weekend at the end of week 11. When we went to pick it up on that Saturday, we had one minor issue with that we knew about during the walkthrough, that the generator wasn't running consistently. So we spent some time on Saturday trying to debug it. We changed out a propane regulator, and it would run off of one tank, but it wouldn't run off the other tank. And kind of doing some debugging, I kind of came down to the fact it was either the tank, which is an easy fix, or it was the hose. So we gave them a week to try to figure out what was going on and fix it. And they had claimed to have fixed it. But I think what happened was they were just running it off the other tank and it was running properly.
We dealt with two different techs at the place, and I think there was some miscommunication there because we had, during the weekend, we had kind of debugged it down to it's got to be here to here. And so we already knew about where it was. So when we got the call the next week and the other tech was like, oh yeah, no, I can't get it to run at all, and we're working on the generator, and I'm going to get a new, you know, bladder for the generator. That's kind of when we shut them down because I didn't want them touching the generator. We knew there was nothing wrong with the generator, and a little protective of it. So,
because we're going to need the generator while we're traveling, because we are planning to do camping where we're not going to have electrical hookup. So we need that generator, and that's one of the things that we're working off. We do have solar that we can rely on, but some of the areas we're going to, like Virginia and stuff, doesn't get a lot of sunshine. So we're going to have to rely on that generator from time to time. So we need to make sure it's working.
But at that point, we kind of we communicated with them a bit and told them we were just going to go pick it up, and we would take it as is. Honestly, it was already, they had fixed way more than I ever thought they would on a used trailer anyway. I really didn't expect it to be like perfect, and they had done way more than I expected. They
take a lot of pride in the models that they sell. They only sell late model, high-end units, and they want them to be perfect. Like they replaced the microwave. And it was like, okay, well, great.
I expected them to tell me, by the way, this is out of warranty and the thing is broken. You need to replace this, but no, they had just replaced it. So
well, they replaced an outside TV that we weren't even planning on using. We have a TV on the outside of the thing in case we want to watch TV while we're outside of the RV.
Right.
And they replaced the TV because it wasn't working. I'm like,
I mean, in general, we were very happy with this dealer. This is this one odd communication, and again, that we'd gotten to a certain point debugging already that we felt confident. We kind of knew where the problem was, and then that communication broke down, and then they were going. I don't want them taking apart my generator again. So that's when we kind of drew the line and went ahead and picked it up.
So we picked it up at the end of week 11, and again for week 11 we were selling stuff. We were really hardcore at that point, getting the house ready to get on the market. I had kind of imposed the deadline of mid-August for us, just so that we kind of knew where we were. Realistically, we were trying to hit the end of August, so I was trying to give us like a couple weeks buffer time to let's get it like 90%, and then we can finish on the other 10%, because we had to do things like we had to paint a wall, we had to do some touch-up painting, we had to move stuff around, we had to get stuff out of the house.
And please take care of your mental health during all this. I don't know if people realize, you get couples or partners, and one person will be doing one thing, and one person, like I was doing a lot of the selling, so a lot of the dealing with even selling or giving away. And so I was doing a lot of that communication. And I was really getting overwhelmed. I had to do packaging, I had to do shipping, I'd have to arrange for people to be there, and trust me, 1 in 4 are not going to show up, or there's going to be some weird complication, or just... So I got actually quite stressed at that point, enough that I had to pull Dave aside and go, look, I'm really... I think at this point, I'm not going to try to sell anything else. From here on, we're going to Goodwill, or we do bulk pickups and rehomings. And it was just too much.
And I did most of the sending to the post office, taking it to the post office, meeting the people away from the house, because again, when we did most of our selling, we have a location close by that's a restaurant and a shopping strip mall thing, and so I would meet most people there. It's close to the house, but it's far enough away that I'm comfortable, especially with us planning to move out and sell the house, that somebody doesn't know where we are and then come later to see, hey, is there anything else we want?
Correct.
Also this week we had all our friends over that we had mentioned earlier to come through and take stuff, and they actually took more than I was expecting.
They did. That's always fun. It's kind of a game to see how much you can make them take. Nobody leaves empty-handed, and always they'll come for maybe one thing that they're thinking about, and you try to get them to take 3 or 4 more things. So that actually worked out really great for us, and things that, again, it's things that I think at first they were like, well, what do you want for this? How much? And it wasn't about that. We just don't want it to go into a landfill. And if people would get use out of it, that's great for us, especially for our friends. So we pretty much was like, as long as they could carry it out of the house, take it. And that worked out really well for us.
And then the following week, still the same stuff. We're getting closer to getting ready. We now started to do some kind of spot cleaning of our own, getting ready to have a cleaning service come in and actually do a cleaning for us. And then I went down to the trailer and I actually had a mobile RV tech come out and install a Wi-Fi antenna on top of the roof, because we had to drill through the roof and I was not comfortable doing that on my own. I wanted to pay somebody to do that. So we actually are using a system from Mobile Must Have. I'll actually include a link to that also down below. So that if you're doing this on the road type of thing, and it'll work in a van, it'll work almost anywhere. And we actually will have 2 SIM cards. We'll have an AT&T SIM card with about 300 gigabytes of internet available. And then we'll have a Verizon SIM card with 150 gigabytes of bandwidth available per month. And then based off of both of those, that means we have about 450 gigabytes. And right now at home, we use about 600 gigabytes of internet. So it's a little bit less than what we use, but it's the best I can kind of go with. And I hope to supplement that with camping ground Wi-Fi if it's decent. Some of the places we're going claim to have decent Wi-Fi in the camping ground, so we'll use that at first if we can. I'll also, a lot of the work that I'm going to be doing, I'll be kind of hotspotting off either my iPad or my telephone, and doing that because I've got unlimited through that. So I won't be trying to draw as much, so that Sue can focus more on using that for her job and everything. And we also just won't be running as much stuff normally through the system, but we'll have to monitor and watch it. And again, we're hoping for Starlink to come out at some point, but this is a good kind of push to get us going. And we tested it a couple weeks in the future here. We'll talk about when we had our Shakedown trip. We actually tested it while we were there, and it worked really well during that period on the Verizon plan.
And I'm sure Dave will put together an upcoming
I'll do a
series.
video on once we get settled on the road. One day I'll just go on a Saturday or something when Sue's not working. I'll kind of go over the whole setup for what we've done for our on the road internet for that. And then so that kind of went through week 12. On week 13 we had the cleaners in. They came in on the Monday.
Right.
And then on the Wednesday we signed all the paperwork with a realtor to put the house in the market.
If you look behind us, we used to have stuff. Now we
Yep.
have empty things.
Yep.
Like, we've definitely minimized everything in the house.
And so, we kind of got rid of the rest of the stuff that we had. And, the house is what, we're in minimal show condition. And so we're going forward with that. And then at the end of the week, we did our Shakedown trip. We went to a local campground or local state park here called Lost Dutchman State Park. And we went out there because it was close to the house. So if we needed to run back, which I did a couple of times, we could run back to the house. It gives us a chance to kind of get used to driving the rig on a short contained thing. And we did have one issue with one of the tires was low, and we filled it up, and then it was low again at the campground. And so I had to fill it back up. And so we learned a couple things, like the air compressor I have, we can't let the tire go too low or the air compressor won't pump it back up.
Well, he was filling it up with like 90 pounds in Arizona heat, so it overheated, understandably.
But while we were there, we installed the gas line to fix the propane issue, and we verified that at least the propane was working fine. We didn't verify the generator because we had electricity at the campground, and I didn't want to switch back and forth.
But we do fully expect the generator to work. Already the regulator is showing better. It wasn't even showing green for one side of the propane.
Well, it wasn't showing we had propane. It was showing that we were out of propane on the one side. So we will test that before we hook up to power at our next campsite. We'll verify that that is working fine, and then we'll go from there. And then we installed a new door lock on the main door to the trailer. We've got a couple other door locks to install around where the generator is and the batteries are.
So the baggage locks.
So we got an RV lock that is actually keypad and also has clickers. And so that way, it's keyed separately from like almost everybody else's trailer now finally. So I don't have to worry about somebody kind of breaking in. What I also wanted to do was kind of all the baggage or storage compartments. They also have locks that are common, but not too common. They're, if you're a Montana owner, your key probably might work. And I was hoping to replace those, but they don't make a replacement for this. I make it for a different type of baggage lock, which we don't have. So I had to return those.
Right.
And those, it was good that we did because I was like 3 days away from being out of the return window, and it was like $500 of locks.
It was a lot of locks, but I will say the keyed lock on the entry, that's super cool, and he was able to install it very quickly. There was no problem.
It took about 10 minutes to do it. The other one, I was like, oh yeah, this will be quick, and then I realized that we had a different type of lock.
It's just not made for it. So that was a little bit of a bummer. We'll keep an eye on things and see what else we can do, but for right now, it was nice to get the one keyed with a keypad, but the rest of them, we've still got 3 keys.
We've got 3 keys, mainly because we're gonna have one for the leveling system, but like all of where the generator is and stuff like that, that'll all be keyed on the same one as the front door, and I'll put those on sometime here in the near future. I'm not in a big hurry to do that.
Right.
And so that kind of took us to the end of the week. We didn't have any other major problems. We got to run through the air conditioners in Arizona heat and make sure that they actually worked.
We found out that our refrigerator, by the way, has an ice maker. Pretty sure either they've never used it or they tried to use it once and found out what we did, in that it's actually got 2 switches. What do you call them?
2
valves.
Yeah.
So we knew about 1 valve, and that was under the sink. And we're like, okay, cool. Turn on the water. That'll make sure we get water in there. But there was no water coming in, and we were looking and we Googled and found out there's another valve. So we ended up taking out the drawer out from under the oven, and laying down. And if you look way up under there, there's another valve back behind your oven, at least in our model. So we're like, cool, we have found it, great. I went and turned it on, reaching as far as I could, and I've got long arms. And water sprays everywhere. So I quickly turned it back off, and for now, we're not gonna do water. We're not gonna do ice cubes.
I do like ice, so we'll do some bagged ice. It's cheap. It's like $1 or $2 for a 10-pound bag. A 10-pound bag will last us, will last me 2 to 3 weeks, so it's not a big expense.
It's on my to-do list to fix. I just got to get a little bit more experience and figure out what makes sense to get in there and fix it, since it's behind the oven like that. Can we get up under the slides to get up in there, or I've got to investigate some more, and it's just not critical.
And we're not going to
turn that right back off.
And we're not going to be using it here once we start going until the summer comes again, because while we're not planning on being places where it gets cold, there still can get a cold night or two, and it's not as well insulated. So even in the winter, you're supposed to turn that off.
Yeah, Dave stresses about that more than I do, but we'll get back to that. But if you're ever wondering why you're not getting water to your refrigerator, there might be a second valve in a very odd place.
And if you do have questions, I recommend joining the owners group for your RV. Most of them did. When we had our tab, I was in the New Way owners group. I've joined the Montana owners group. So if I've got questions about something, that's where I found the answer to, hey, there's a second valve under your oven, pull this out. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, there it is. And then, so, that was kind of the major thing. We got back home.
We did have one more thing.
Oh, what did we have?
We had our Max Air fan.
Oh, yes.
So we have a Max Air fan. It's got a rain sensor, all that wonderful stuff in the bathroom. And the whole time we were there, it has the little wall thermostat panel. And you could make it come open, closed, open, close, open, close. But we couldn't turn the thing on. Now, Dave had run it before, and it was fine. But most of the weekend, every once in a while, because I'm like that, I would push it and be like, is it working now? Is it working now? And it didn't until like the last day. And I clicked it and it turned on. And I was like, yes, success. It must just be loose or something. But then we couldn't get the booger to turn off, like at all. It would not turn off. We could close the fan. It didn't care. It doesn't turn off. So Dave actually had to look that up too, and ended up, what did you do?
So I pulled a fuse. So it's a 12-volt fan, so I had to pull a 12-volt fuse in our 12-volt fuse box. And it wasn't labeled as this one, but it was interior 1, which is actually the first fan or fuse that I pulled. So once I pulled that, the fan stopped, and when I put it back in, it closed.
Right.
And
so now we haven't touched it since. Yes. We have called the manufacturer, and they're nice people, and they agree. Again, Google Foo, we very quickly saw it's most like our control circuit board, and they agreed. It's the control circuit board. So now we're on the search for one with everything that's going on in the world with supply and demand.
Yep.
Apparently these circuit boards are hard to find right now, so we think we've got one on order, but we'll have to see. It is something that we should be able to switch out ourselves, but we'll let you know how that goes.
And we'll be right back. We've got to switch the battery really quick. Okay, we're back. Okay. So we're now up to week 14, which is the week that ends in Labor Day weekend. So on the Wednesday before Labor Day, which is the 1st of September, the house went on the market. We had a couple showings, and then we had an open house Labor Day weekend. And so, we had a lot of good initial interest. And then on that Friday, I actually gave notice to my work that I'm going into retirement and that I was giving my 2 weeks notice because I'd only been there for 6 months. So there wasn't a need to really give more notice. And so I'm now, as we're currently videoing this, halfway through my 2 week period.
He's very excited, if you can't tell.
So, and that's pretty much what happened this week was, houses on the market. We did some things, we had some going away things with our friends here in Arizona. We went to our first convention and
we did. We went to an anime convention.
Almost 2 years.
Anime convention here. Shout out to SabotenCon in Arizona.
Yeah.
Everybody had their masks on. It still felt weird. It was so many people to be that close to. But it was good to kind of have some normalcy back. It was good.
Yeah. So, it was our last con in 2019.
Yeah.
And then we were getting ready to do our first con in 2020, which would have been Phoenix Comic Con in May. And, COVID hit in March.
Yeah.
So, and then we didn't have, the con Sabo in 2020.
Right.
So, it's been 2 years since we had Sabo. And it was kind of strange going back.
It definitely was, and I think everybody kind of felt that way. But the numbers were decent, and that meant people were ready to get out. But again, people are being responsible as well.
So so that ended our week 14, and then now we're on the end of week 15 as we film this right now. So this is the week after, it's the 11th of September.
We've got a showing tomorrow, and again, if you've never done a showing for your house when you're still living there, it's pain in the tuchus. Because you have to be show ready at all the times. You got to go through and make sure all your blinds are open, all your lights are on, all your pillows are fluffed.
Your fans are running if you got ceiling fans.
Right, turn on your TV to a weather station on low. So it's a whole production.
Yeah.
Plus, we are not the most organized people. So just to have a house that's mostly organized is very hard for us. So in a way, I'm looking forward to getting into the RV, even if we haven't sold the house yet, because that way they don't have to depend on us to get our act together and get out of the house, because we have to package up the dog too, and and things like that, and have somewhere to be while the showing's going on. So
it's gonna work out good. Hopefully we get an offer tomorrow, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. But we're kind of at the tail end of the market right now for selling a house. So that means, in Arizona, over the summer, it's kind of hot. And then kind of beginning of October, it'll pick back up when the snowbirds start coming down. Yeah. So, worst case, I expect that, we'll have some snowbirds looking for a house or something.
Right. Our price point, it's just, we're a little slower. Yeah. And I think the average just went from 11 days on market to 27 days on market for our price point. So it's just a little bit of an adjustment in the market. We're not worried. The price is still good. We're going to sell, so we're not overly worried about that. And we've done this a few times, so the stress level for that's just not that bad for us. We've been here. We've done this, and we can handle it even if it goes for a couple of months.
Yeah. And we've got about half the stuff packed in the trailer. Like most of our clothes are actually in the trailer.
Yeah.
We're reusing the same clothes, kind of washing. So, we've got like 4 days worth of clothes at the house right now, and then every 4 days we have to wash. We've got 2 coffee cups. I've got 1 drinking cup besides my water bottle. And then, we've got a set of plates and silverware. And that's it. Everything else is in the trailer. And then the stuff that is like temperature sensitive, like my camera equipment or extra computers and stuff.
Right.
Some resins, props and stuff. We have for cosplay. All that stuff is still here in a closet.
Yeah.
1 of 2. We've got it in 2 closets in our spare bedrooms. So, we're kind of down. And so that kind of brings us up. I'll give you a preview, Next week, we're still here in the house doing showings as needed. We're wrapping up with some appointments and other visits and stuff that we need to take care of before we go. But we will be moving into the trailer next Sunday, September 19th, at a local campground here in northern Phoenix area, because we're heading north. So we're going to move north so that on that Saturday, the 2nd of October, we can just pull up everything and not have to go through downtown Phoenix to get out. We'll just drive out onto the interstate and head up towards Flagstaff.
Right.
As our first trip.
So again, 2 weeks, kind of local, but out of the house, and then we'll leave the valley.
Yep.
In October 2nd.
And that 2 weeks gives us time to slowly move everything into the house. You know, Sue can still kind of go into work a couple of days if she wants. And get used to kind of working in the trailer too, because we do have, one question of, are we going to try to take apart the existing kitchen table and put a desk in there, or are we going to work off that? So I kind of want her to work off the desk or the kitchen table for a little bit to just see.
We'll see.
Yeah. But, so we have that at the house right now. And also if we sell the house, then we need to figure out what to do with furniture while we're still here. What little bit we have left, get it ready to be donated, or if they're not going to buy it.
Perfect world, they'd be like, I want everything in the house that I can see. But and at one point in our life, we were Ethan Allen people, but in our last decade, we've been more IKEA people. So they're not going to want most of our stuff. So we'll have to rehome that. But you have to have a certain amount when you're staging a house. It can't be empty, or people don't know how to see
the house.
Because
we sold a house like that, and it took us a while to sell a house with nothing in it. So we're going to keep stuff in it, and then we've got friends locally, and your brother may be back or something. So, because some of the stuff we will have to get out so that it can get rehomed properly.
Yeah.
So we will have to rely on some of our local friends here to help get
again, unless
out.
they get me an offer next, tomorrow. It's like, come on, let's
and
go.
And then we can start stripping it. So this will be the last video that you see here in the house. The next video is when we're actually up at the campground, doing our shakedown. And so, we'll kind of go over how things are going and what the plans are kind of going forward. And the first video will probably be live at that time. I've decided these are all going to come out on Mondays. So every Monday, starting on the 20th, will be the first one released. So going forward, so you'll be seeing this on the 3rd, this is going to be video 1, 5, 6. This is going to be the 5th video, so this will be sometime in October, November timeframe where this one will go live. So it'll be a couple months delayed going forward. And intermixed between this, we'll actually have our on the road videos too. I'll put those up a little bit quicker. I'll do be able to do a little bit more quick edit on those ones and put those up while we're actually on the road. So you'll actually see, Amarillo or Memphis or wherever we happen to be. I'll take some video of that, maybe try to do some drone footage and stuff and slice something together. And if we go and actually do something in one of these towns, go see something, I'll definitely do a video on that too. And there'll be a blog post for it also.
And again, if anything goes wrong, you'll see it. If anything goes right, you'll probably see it. But definitely if anything goes wrong, we'll be sure to let y'all know and make sure you're right there with us.
So I want to remind everybody, if you like this content, if you want to see more of it, if you want to see more of our travels and stuff, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. And then also click the little bell icon. There, you've probably seen the little subscribe go through a couple times down here at the bottom. And then, definitely be here. But, subscribe. If you've got any questions or comments, or you got suggestions for us or tips, go ahead and put a comment down below.
We'll read them.
We'll read them all. We'll usually reply to most of them as time permits, especially now that I'm getting ready to retire. I'll have more time to do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how this happened, but yes, he's retiring and I'm still working. How does this happen?
Because I'm older and more handsome. The beard.
Anyway,
everybody loves the beard.
Anyway.
And bald. I mean, that's why we're the bald traveler.
Moving on.
Thanks again. And remember, travel baldly.